I'm here to talk to you about women's coverage in sports. We don't typically see a lot of it, like the male dominated sports and stuff like that. Our sports are usually only showed if it's gymnastics or ice skating, stuff like, dancing, things that are considered feminine. Um, for example, if you take my sport, wrestling, we have a platform called Flow Wrestling, and we generally only see the males competing, even though female wrestling has plenty of competitions like the males, and we don't get as much coverage as they do. Um, my purpose today is to tell you why we should get equal coverage in the media like the men do. My first argument is we only receive 4% of the media coverage, and that's just not enough. According to glamour.com, women make up 40% of all participants in sports. So, because women aren't getting as much coverage as men, sponsorships go down, revenues plummet. Um, there's usually not enough money to go into the females aspects of sports. This also affects little girls who don't get to have as many role models as little boys do, and generally will grow up to kind of think they need to kind of just work in the kitchen, or they aren't worth it to be in the field of sports. Another thing I have to say is because we don't get enough media coverage, the girls typically drop out of sports much more than men do because we do not get enough coverage. With that being said, another argument is women have been fighting for equality all throughout history. This is from the sportsjournal.org. The U.S. Congress passed Title IX of the Omnibus Education Act of 1972, for example, mandated equal federal funding opportunities towards male and female students in higher education, which encouraged more girls and women to participate in sports. That being said, because of the creation of Title IX, women have gotten a little bit more coverage, but still not as much as men. It's helped create more of a atmosphere for female athletes. It's created more opportunities for female athletes. There's a little bit more role models for the little girls, even though it's still not as much as the men or boys. And Title IX it helps with a lot of that, where with male-dominated sports, females are allowed to participate in them because usually they don't have another option to do. For example, take me back in high school. I wanted to join wrestling. So because my school did not have a women's team, I had to join with the boys. And with that being said, it was a little hard at first, and then once the coaches realized that I wanted to be there to wrestle and not just because of the boys, I got a lot more. The coaches helped me a lot more because I knew I was there because I wanted to be there, not because of boys. With that being said, Medium.com expresses that media coverage on women's sports is only evident during the Olympics, and it's kind of like sports like gymnastics, ice skating, as I said before. Another thing that Medium.com says is the only media coverage and exposure of women's sports are mainly sensationalized stories of women challenging their male counterparts, which is very rare. I will say, taking me for example, I have challenged male counterparts, but it didn't happen as often as you would think because we typically have our own sport, especially with like softball and baseball, but softball doesn't ever get as much coverage as baseball, nor do we have a big professional softball team like the MLB. We don't have anything like the NFL, and when it comes to basketball, women definitely don't get as much coverage or as much people to come up to their showings and sporting events because they don't see it as a feminine thing to do. It also, if media does start to show more sports with females, I think participation will increase immensely, and there will be a lot more females participating, and we won't have to compete on male teams anymore like I did with wrestling, and we won't have to compete with boys if girls want to play football. We'll have our own league and stuff like that. I really hope you enjoyed my speech, and that is it. Thank you.